Hello again. This is Sheryl Noethe, Montana's poet laureate, with a podcast for you to use in the classroom and to think about and go home and write about. I'm going to talk to you today about one of my favorite lessons, and it's called I Remember. Now, I remember is when you make a snapshot out of a memory and you thoroughly describe everything that happened and the senses involved, so that the person that is hearing or reading the memory is almost there. I'm also going to include a special, really fun form, and I'm going to show you on this board. This is called the acrostic poem, the acrostic form. The spine words being I remember, are up and down on the page. And then the poem is written from the letter of each line. So you come with vocabulary and ideas that you wouldn't otherwise necessarily have been able to come up with because something convenient came to mind, as opposed to here where you've got to come up with an M. You'll surprise yourself. And maybe we can do a sample one together here for I Remember. So, I always recall when I was right, see, and I did an R, right around 6 years old. My dad was, now I have an E, I'm going to say, my dad was, how about easily shaving with a razor. I was watching, and so I made lather out of soap and put it on my face, and then I imitated my father. Well, I was so engrossed in shaving as I knelt on the counter that I made a slip and fell into the dreaded, eerie, there's a good word, toilet. I screamed. My dad said, "Hold on to me, honey. We'll flush it. We'll clean your feet off." I said, "You're not going to get rid of me that easy." He said, "I would never let go of you, ever." The room smelled like the shaving foam he used, and the mirror was clouded from the hot water, and I was both feet in the toilet. So, my dad said, "Hold on. Now I've got to be here, brave. Be brave. I'll flush and clean off." Oh, now I've got an E. Clean off. Oh, every drop. How's that? Every drop. So I trusted him. I held on tight. He flushed. My feet were clean, and I was still above water, and my father was right. And there, we've done an acrostic poem. If you choose to write paragraphs about I Remember, it's important to use the images, the colors, and the senses to make a perfect snapshot. And I have some examples of that for you. This is called Cross Ride, and it's by a former student, And it's remembering, well, you can figure out what she's remembering. She leans forward slowly, one hand brushing the coarse fur of little one's shoulder. Her cheek slides down his mane. Her arms drape down his neck as he walks slowly forward through the forest. He sounds like a deep, rough laugh. She smiles and sits up. She clicks her heels into his side, giving the okay, and his hooves clap the ground, beating on the slightly used trail and moving quickly to avoid outreaching branches. The minutes blow past her face. Everything is perfect. What I love about this poem is when she said, the minutes blow past her face. I have never heard that kind of usage to describe time passing, but she's riding a horse and the wind is blowing and the minutes are blowing past as well. And that's a really lovely way to talk about time moving. Now I have another memory poem, and this one is called Fire on Mount Jumbo. This is written by one of my students who was in 5th grade. I remember the fire I started in my backyard, which is Mount Jumbo. My cousins made me do it. The oldest was 12, and the other was 10. I was 7. We had been practicing making small fires for about 3 weeks. We thought you could put them out with squirt guns and by stepping on them. When I was running down, I looked back and I saw the tree was engulfed in flames. A fireman drove by and he pulled into our yard and helped us. My mom called 911. A man delivering pizzas tried to put it out, but it burned his pizza carrier. A few minutes later, the fire trucks came. My shoes had melted, and I dropped my squirt gun. After the fire was over, my cousins had to pay some money and pick up garbage on the street. I was too young to have to do that. Another very powerful memory, and he told the truth, and that's what made it more real, more vivid, and more interesting. And you know, the lines that I love in here are the lines about we had been practicing small fires, and especially the lines, my sneakers melted and I dropped my squirt gun. You know, those were his plans to put out the fire, but his sneakers melted and he dropped the squirt gun. And so that's another excellent memory poem. Another example that I have about a memory poem is someone writing about taking a trip in their car across country and having the car break down. The child writes that when the car broke down, they had to get towed to a body shop, and he said it smelled terrible. It smelled like oil and grease. He said, a crow flew across the blue sky, and my mother stood in her red sweatshirt waiting. In this way, this poet covers the senses. He enriches that by adding, my sister threw up in the back seat of the car. What a memory. See you next time.